More reviews. Monkey Business. How director Terry Gilliam got Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt, and Madeline Stowe to work cheap. Gilliam has a grim view.
A nice photo, see that?
Sitting on the table.
The poster.
The film, 12 Monkeys, are violence, language, sex, nudity. Where's there sex in it?
No, nowhere.
No. This is, let's sue them for misrepresentation. Stars, there we go.
Can I get you anything else?
How long do we have to hang about before the show actually
The show starts at 5:30.
5:30.
Tonight, Mandy Patinkin and director Terry Gilliam.
What do you think of the intro?
Wait, is he there?
What intro?
Please welcome one of Hollywood's true creative visionaries, Terry Gilliam.
I'm not gonna say Hollywood. I've now become a Hollywood director. There's no stopping these folk.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest was one of the founding members of Monty Python and has since gone on to direct such films as Brazil, The Fisher King, and now 12 Monkeys, which opens today. Please welcome one of Hollywood's true creative visionaries, Terry Gilliam. Action on the crane.
I don't know anything about monkey or
So even those windows, you can hit those.
In November of 1994, Terry Gilliam began production on what he calls his 7.5 feature film, 12 Monkeys. Although he normally develops his own projects and works on the fringes of the Hollywood system, Terry comes to 12 Monkeys as a director for hire. He's now part of a commercial film package that includes someone else's script, major studio financing, and some of Hollywood's most powerful stars.
There's a side of me that's just permanently sick to my stomach, feeling I'm being dragged into the abyss of success and that system. On the other hand, there's a side of me that thinks maybe I'm getting away with murder within the system. Maybe I am making a European art movie within the Hollywood system. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll just be caught.
Terry's movies are too big in scope to be anything but films that are intended for a broad audience. And as much as Terry might not want to be in the Hollywood system, he knows he's never going to be able to get the kind of money he wants to make those hugely ambitious movies that his vision is without somehow involving the studio system. So that's the paradox, isn't it?
Terry's experiences in Hollywood have not always been pleasant. In 1985, Terry delivered Brazil to Universal. Universal didn't like the film and decided to shorten it and try out a happier ending. Though Terry didn't have final cut, he thought he'd have the final word and made the Battle of Brazil public. He placed a full-page ad in Variety. He arranged illegal screenings for the LA Critics Circle. When the film won the LA Critics Best Picture Award, Universal released Terry's version of Brazil. In 1987, Terry began work on The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. The production was plagued with disasters and expensive ideas. The studio found the film too confusing for mass appeal, and to avoid spending even more money, it put little effort into Munchausen's marketing campaign. As a result, the film floundered at the box office, and Terry was left with a bad reputation in Hollywood.
After Munchausen, I just went into a big depression about filmmaking, period. And then Fisher King came along, and it was a script, the first one that I hadn't been involved in the writing of, and I really liked it. And it was the easiest film I've ever made, and one of the most enjoyable. And it was successful. Very dangerous stuff, this. And then I went and got a Hollywood agent. And now I've got a Hollywood lawyer as well. There's an ironic aspect to this whole thing because, you know, Brazil was made for Universal Pictures. On the other hand, I'm in a situation on this film where I got final cut. I got control of it. And that's all I've ever wanted, is control of it. And I seem to have it on this one.
Terry's asked us to make a documentary about the making of 12 Monkeys.
The boys, the gentlemen, the artists, the documentarians. It's the big moment. It's the birth of a great documentary.
He's jokingly suggested that if anything should go wrong, at least this time he'll have witnesses.
There's a sadness about this thing, there's a decay about it, there's a nostalgia. These are elements of the film, I think. What is nice about this is just the monotonous, forever going in a circle. Everybody just dutifully following one ass after another. This is humanity, just the monkeys, except for the one that breaks loose. The dangerous, destructive one. This script is very disconcerting because it's dealing with time, it's dealing with madness, it's dealing with perception of what the world is or isn't.
On the surface, it's kind of a science fiction thriller about a virus that wipes out humanity.
It's the idea of one man traveling back through time to put together the jigsaw puzzle.
But in fact, maybe he really isn't from the future, and maybe all of this in his head.
For the first 50 pages of the script, you have no idea what's going on.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that as the credits roll, the audience will have figured it out? Or are they going to be going home in their cars arguing about it? No, he could have done this. I wonder if, do we want to make it, do we want to make the answer clear enough that they can figure it out that night on the way home, or that it just remains ambiguous?
The studio's been very strange on it because they put a cap on it because they feel it, at the time, I think they feel it's an art movie. They don't know what to make of it. It doesn't fit in any genre or mold that makes sense to them. And it was really only when I got Bruce involved, Bruce Willis, that it became a more viable project. They're obsessed about things like opening weekend, and someone like Bruce guarantees an opening weekend. And so with him, it became definite.
Here we go, stand by.
Okay, let's roll.
Okay, let's go.
Terry completely insisted on a final cut, and the studio said, well, okay, fine, as long as he delivers the movie no worse than an R rating and no longer than 2 hours and 15 minutes, we'll give him the final cut. But the financial responsibility will absolutely not be ours.
This budget,
How much commission?
137 pages.
I
It's
remember
longer than the
every
script.
line of
You
that.
remember every line?
Yeah. Okay, you don't have to worry ever about money, ever. You only have to worry about the way it gets spent.
The discipline that was put on us that was not particularly pleasant, but which was a finite amount of money and much less than what we needed, forced us all to work to find solutions to try and make this movie within that budget. But we have a long script, we have a dense script, we have a short schedule, and we have a limited amount of money. and so inevitably you pay the price.
The first bear that Terry chose was a rip-off. I mean, not the bear, but the owner of the bear was asking something ludicrous.
Because the plasterers are $350 a day.
The driver is costing $2,800 a week.
Well, the Marx Brothers are $10,000, the image of them.
We could purchase either one of them for their rock bottom price of $7,500.
This thing right now, I had it bid, it was at $20,000 just for this. And
I
so
don't get
I'm
these.
going to try and
I really
cut
don't
it,
get these prices. There's got to
cut it
be
down.
ways.
Well,
yeah.
I'm like on the edge on every set.
No, I know. That's why. I mean, we've got to find ways of.
I'm trying. That's what I'm trying.
I had this feeling that the movie should have this kind of feeling of decay of the past with it, and because we didn't have money, we couldn't build a whole lot of big sets, but I wanted a big look for the film. So we decided to use old power plants, old crumbling buildings, and kind of show the decay of civilization within the 1990s as well as in the year 2035.
I can see, now, here's what we got to do is, that thing is going to have to go below. Yours is really going to be attached on that plate. Just stand.
So when we got there, and we started talking about, well, that machine could be this, you know, and then they started working the script around things we found.
The time machine sequence in the script was originally, I think, about 2 lines. Coal is wheeled on a gurney and put into a steel tube. And as we were wandering around these power stations in Philly and looking at these gigantic turbines and these huge, this massive machinery, I just felt we got to make a time machine. And so I convinced everybody, let's go for it and let's create a massive time machine.
It seemed that even by the time I had arrived on the film, that everybody, Terry, Jeff, the producers, must have talked endlessly about the time machine, and yet never quite homed in on it. And it started to happen in daily meetings that Terry and Jeff and I had. And what developed was using found objects, using things that I would literally find in the gutter or in flea markets, coming across some piece of scrap metal or some domestic item and adapting that and making it into something unusual.
Well, I became more and more obsessed as I was through this whole film about, condoms and bubbles and sealing, the boy in the bubble, sealing things from other things. And so we built a cocoon that would transport him into the machine. And it was just extraordinary. It seemed like an amniotic sac, something to do with birth and death, the two things being closely related in my mind.
I think Terry's always looking for a different edge. He approaches it very straight. He goes, we're going to make a little movie. And then suddenly it becomes a big movie. He said, I have to start out little because it's going to become big anyway. It's me. That's what he says.
Look at this. This is fucking great. I was just reading a script again. The gurney is wheeled into coal on a dirty squeal into a steel tube.
That much understand.
No mistakes this time, Cole.
Stay alert. Keep your eyes open.
I'm thinking about the spider, Cole. Try to do something like that again.
I think when we did the time machine, the set looked like a theatrical set in a strange way. But this is silly. This isn't intimidating. This isn't worrying. This is silly and it's funny. Actually, I suppose it's like, late in life trying to learn to be a director is what I'm trying to teach myself. How do you become a director when it's not your stuff? And so you try to make it yours. It is harder doing other people's scripts because I feel a great responsibility to the writers. And I fight making it a Terry Gilliam film.
We want Bruce! 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 We want Bruce!
One of the challenges in making 12 Monkeys a Terry Gilliam film is overcoming the image of some of the actors involved.
Can't just barge in on him. He's very well known. He's been the target of animal rights activists.
Security, guards, gates, alarms,
Okay.
This is madness.
Terry never worried about Madeleine Stowe. He chose her for her versatility as an actor and immediately feels comfortable with her grasp on the role. Bruce Willis is a different story. Bruce normally appears in Bruce Willis films. Audiences go to see his films not because of the director, but because they know what to expect from Bruce.
So just as I'm in mid-flight, or as Terry's in mid-flight, Chuck, you're gonna open up. Boom, I catch just like that. Boom. There we go.
Bruce and Terry are trying to do something different, trying to tone down the die-hard image and create a more vulnerable character.
Look a bit closer to camera. Into the lens, even. Try it.
Are you all right?
Anxious to be involved in a Terry Gilliam film, Bruce and the other principals have also asked for only a small fraction of their usual fees. Still, the buzz surrounding 12 Monkeys often has more to do with the film's stars than with its director.
I got 5,000 pictures of different famous people. 5,000. How many? 5,000. Oh, yeah.
I would like to have you across the street where we've had all the press all day that have showed up. Bruce Willis sees you here, and he tells us we're not going to do any filming because you're out here. You're going to be holding up the works. Then somebody on a higher authority than me is going to ask you to move across the street. So the best thing for you to do is to do that right now.
Now she walks on the set carrying a framed picture of Brad Pitt with her and gets past that incredible security we have here. Now, I go outside for a cup of coffee. I can't get back in. But we got wandering the building.
They got him.
I think it's fortuitous on the producers' parts to have signed Brad Pitt when they did. Because when they signed him, probably 3-4 months ago, Interview with the Vampire still hadn't hit theaters, Legends of the Fall still hadn't hit theaters, and all of a sudden, that all happened 3-4 weeks before we started filming, and they've got the hottest guy in Hollywood.
So, I mean, that'll give time for Roz and Joey to get up and make their way over there. And once everybody's over there, then back comes the Pied Piper. Right. This way, out of the chaperone. One of the interesting things about this film was to get Brad Pitt to play a character very unlike anything we've ever seen him play before. I mean, somebody fast and furious and neurotic and frenzied. And we decided he really had to train for this role because his voice didn't have the qualities needed to do it. And Brad worked really hard at this.
Walking around like this, like this, like this, and they need to know, and they need to know something. You got to tell them. You got to wake them up. You got to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And man doesn't like 2, does he? He doesn't like number 2. It makes him itch. Truth. It's not how you see it or how I see it or they see it or see it. There's just a truth. There's a truth. And you either see it or you don't.
Excellent. Okay, hope it's useful to you.
So what else can you tell me?
Well, I think some of the distraction, the motor movement kind of, I mean, if we're staying with a manic kind of...
Right.
you know, some of the motor stuff, I would expect you to get up and probably pace around a little bit more.
Move around more.
Move around a little bit more.
We can go much more irritable.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There are happy manics, that videotape that you saw of the lady, or if you review.
Right.
She's
yes,
kind of a happy manic.
Right.
And then there are angry manics who are more irritable, more violent.
We don't have to do this opening now. Now's the time for all men to seize the moment.
And the opportunities they offer. Oh, they really dosed Jim. Major load.
I mean, we know we've got big name stars to open the film. Whether it opens it the right way, it lets the audience know what they're in for, that's something else. I'm more worried about the first couple previews we're going to have when the studio sees it and the audience sees it and everybody panics. It's going to be very different than they expected. And then the shit's going to hit the fan, and the panic starts, and then the pressure's going to be on. And then they will even more, the more they feel that, the more they will push the selling of it as a Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt movie. But it is how the film got made, by putting some stars in it.
where are you going, the camera truck?
Actually, Terry Gilliam's trailer, I would say.
It's breathtaking. Can't go wrong with this.
This one, there's the sandwich really well identified.
Look at it. Look at it. Oh, it's unbearable. Unbelievable.
Great.
Does it work?
Yes, of course it works. It's great. It's really funny.
Good. We're glad we give you a laugh.
If one was going to write a book about the making of the film, I'd call it The Hamster Factor, and other tales about the making of 12 Monkeys. And the hamster factor is the Terry Gilliam element, which is where everything is in order, everything is in place, and then there's detail that he needs to get right. And the hamster factor comes from a scene where we built a little laboratory set in a gas turbine, and Bruce Willis was sitting naked, drawing his own blood.
It's a very simple setup, but in that frame is a hamster in a wheel. Now, it was one of those shots I said, well, this is going to be a simple shot, it'll take us a couple minutes to do. Boom, we get going, and then the hamster didn't do what it was supposed to do. Same animal.
Terry that night was more preoccupied with getting the hamster to perform right than he was Bruce Willis.
Here we go. Are you squished against the wall? You're incredibly uncomfortable? Must be right, then. So you're on a heater. Okay.
And in the end, you know, he got Bruce's performance and he got the hamster's performance.
It's in there. The hamster's in there, and he's in his little wheel, and he's exercising. That became the hamster factor, so that the assumption is that every time I do a shot and people think they know what the shot is, I add one element that's going to completely bugger up the whole thing, that's going to take a day to do, where normally the shot would only take 5 minutes to do. And it's a bit of detail that probably doesn't mean anything to anybody but myself. That's the other part of it. There's not a lot of really good information down there. Oh, fuck. Can't work out how they work. No, come on, I can't work the focus on it. That's in focus there. "12 Monkeys" has a credit, and it says, based on the movie La Jetée by Chris Marker. La Jetée was a film made in the 60s, early 60s, in France. And it's a film I've never seen, but it's about 27 minutes long, and nothing moves in it. It's black and white photographs, still photographs. But what it is about is a world in the future where people have survived some apocalyptic end of the world, and they're living underground, and people are being sent back to the past. And it ends with a man seeing his own death.
We stuck to that from the very beginning, that this is a story of a man who has a dream and is haunted by a dream, and he has one dream, and it's his death. He sees his own death.
We used the situation of La Jetée and the dream and so on. By the same token, 12 Monkeys is not based on it in the sense that somebody's trying to copy this masterpiece. In that way, it's not a simple remake, and yet it has an enormous debt to La Jetée that should be and must be acknowledged.
While 12 Monkeys takes its climactic final moments directly from La Jetée, the contrast between the two films is never more striking than in these airport scenes. This is 12 Monkeys' most logistically complex shoot. It involves a very tight schedule for the number of shots and the management of over 500 extras.
I'd like you to put your hands up if you've been told to move.
Philadelphia Police, Airport Security. Raise your hand, please.
You're going to come through.
Background action. And action.
Get that guy out of there. Nah, tons of them. Have a million Japanese. No, I was talking about the Japanese are the only thing I like. Everybody else is nothing. Still going through. Yeah, I do.
I know this place.
Airport
airports all look the same.
This is my dream.
I don't think this film is La Jetée. I mean, we've done this very complicated, possibly lumbering, clunky, crash, bang version of that. Such a ephemeral connection to it. At least it was, it was the springboard, but the diving board is not the dive. This is the dive, and we're in this triple gainer at this moment with a double flip, and we're about to hit the water, if there is water in the pool. Maybe there's no water in the pool, we'll find out. Because we don't see him and you, and that thing is just,
Background action! Action!
Cut. I am the man who shoots Bruce Willis. I am the man who shoots Bruce Willis.
And I go, stop, police. Actually, Bruce Willis has, I don't think, ever been killed in a film before either. It's never been done before.
With all the complexity and confusion of the airport shoot, there is one thing that's truly important. The audience must realize that Cole's recurring dreams are actually childhood memories, and that the boy in the airport is the young Bruce Willis, who witnesses his own death.
265, take 4, A and B, come and mark. Background action. And action.
And this kid's got these beautiful eyes that are really what it's about.
6.
Yes.
You should do a kid thing. You should be doing like a little kid thing, like he's excited or something. First time in an airport,
That's
so
all.
he wants to go through.
I think as you walk through, you could look around and see him. It's like, cool, look at, oh, there's just something. Made it. And it didn't kill me. Huh?
265, take 3. Speed. Lock. And action.
And cut.
Got that?
Terry's cast the boy for his beautiful eyes. But it wasn't until after the first few takes that he realized that beautiful eyes were not necessarily enough for the job.
He photographs beautifully, but he's just...
Once he realized that he had made a mistake, he completely lost sight of everything else that we had to do there. From the very beginning, he said, I want the movie to open on the kid, I want the movie to close on the kid. I know that that's really, really important. That's how I see the film. And here he was losing his ability to have the very image that got him to make the movie. He was in danger of losing it.
Never comfortable with Terry's choice, Chuck Roven insisted on having an alternate young Cole standing in the wings, waiting for his call.
Okay, now you're out of hiding. You know what this is?
An airport?
Yeah, good question. Answer. How's school?
Good. I've been out of it for a while. Because
Really?
I missed 2 days and I didn't do nothing. So, what do I do though?
So all that's going to be happening is you're walking through. You've never been through one of these before.
Yeah, I actually have.
No, not. Yeah, I know. We're not talking about real life. We're talking about movies now.
So I look around and...
You know, just walking in, this is great. Whoa, that's wonderful. Yeah.
And action.
Brilliant. You've done, yeah.
Got that?
Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
Checking the gates on that one, guys.
Terry's very, very specific about the images that he has in his mind. Sometimes images become the crutch on which he rests. So sometimes he misses the theme or the point of the characters or the script and relies upon his visual solutions. Some of the days that have been the most excruciating to complete are days where Terry and the actors are still working through trying to understand the material.
One of the things that he told me that I believed him because I saw it happen was that his life somehow starts to shape itself so that he's suffering from the same things that his lead character is.
And action.
So if you've got Bruce Willis in the film losing his focus and not knowing what's real and not real, Terry as a director, I knew at some point he was going to lose his focus on the movie, and he was not going to know what was important and what wasn't important, or begin to be a little shaky about it.
No one said anything about elephants. Like, where the hell does this fit in?
So who's mad? Is Cole mad? Or, as Riley begins to think at the beginning, then she thinks she's mad. Who's mad? Is Terry mad? Probably, very.
I feel more disconcerted on this one than anything I've ever done. It's like, it's kind of a feeling of not sure what we're doing. Oh, God, I wish we could go in here.
I don't understand! All right, cut it. Okay, cut that. What happened down there? What happened? I mean, something totally different happened that time.
This always happens with my stuff, is that the nature of the film, or the essence of the film, becomes what the making of it's about. Go, 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 go! It's a biggish film with some big stars in it, so it should have bigness to it, but it doesn't. It's all in little pieces. It's a film about pieces. But I can see an image of her, and you think, oh, poor helpless thing, and then she goes, wham! And it's so violent, and you're thrown back, and then she's got you. She was just doing it there, and she hits you the second one, that one, the roundhouse, and then she's on you. Is that?
Okay, I don't agree. I mean, I'll certainly do it. I'll try it. I think we have a can of worms here. Is that she's a frail woman. That's why I was saying give her a weapon or something, because I could stand here and she could kick me 8 fucking times and I wouldn't really be going anywhere.
I'll do anything to make a movie. You in focus on that one? Oh, yeah. That's what it's like.
Midway through the production, Terry goes horseback riding and suffers a near-fatal accident. On his first day back to the set, he jokes that if his ability to manage a production is anything like his ability to control a horse, then the film's in serious trouble.
I don't have a clue what the film is anymore. I've lost it totally. I mean, I just know we do one scene after another and we try to make the scenes as good as we can. But as far as having a real sense of where we are, I'm not certain, because it's kind of like we got all the pieces, we're making pieces of the jigsaw, each one we make, and that's beautiful, and there's that one over here that we do. And I'm just worried about how it all goes together.
With time and money running low, Terry focuses all his anxieties on the interrogation room, the film's last futuristic set. For months now, the crew has been working steadily here, trying to realize Terry's ideas for the room, although no one seems clear on exactly what those ideas are. What is clear is that the room includes the production's most expensive piece of set design, the video ball.
A little faster.
Fearing that the arm which supports the ball is not capable of smooth motion, the producers have arrived for a surprise inspection.
Straight up and stop it and step. Stand it down and stop it. Stop. This was fixed in here, or something went like that.
We've got to fix this because it looks terrible and it doesn't work. And when we're doing his point of view, looking at the ball, right? The camera's going to look at it, the thing's going to stop, the thing's going to shake. It's going to look like shit.
When you're combining the 3 moves, doing it slowly, you can disguise.
Especially when you're up there, you don't notice.
Because that movement is disguised when you do it, and that movement is disguised.
All right. So then it's going to look like shit.
Okay. No. If we can, Chuck.
We have to figure
Why
out.
don't you guys keep rehearsing on it?
You've got to do.
Because I think it gets better, but sometimes it shook and sometimes it didn't.
It's not what he's saying. He's saying it's always going to shake.
When it shakes just a little there, it's amplified, because of the distance.
Well, we need it not to shake, so we got to try and do a
I don't know. I think it's a very disjointed kind of crew. It isn't like everybody's completely united in our approach to how we're making this film. Such a fear around this place. Fear seems to permeate Hollywood filmmaking. There seems to be too much desire to please the director or please the star. But we want to please you, Terry. I said, I'm not interested in pleasing me. I'm not interested in you pleasing me. I'm interested in you doing what's best for the film. And that may not please me. I may be the problem.
At lunch today, hovering over a scale model of the video ball, Terry, the producers, and the special effects team shout at the top of their lungs. We're afraid to turn the camera in their direction. From somewhere behind the fruit salad, we hear Terry tell Chuck Roven that he should find someone else to direct this film. Terry spends the next hour locked in his trailer.
The function of that room, as far as I'm concerned, is to be like, it should be in a strange way the inside of Cole's deranged mind. I mean, the whole film should be in that room. It should be the jigsaw of the film in that room. All the key bits and pieces around there, but not necessarily in the right order.
We had this whole discussion about what kind of technology they did have. And then they gathered all the technology they could.
They're underground, it's rough, it's scraping an existence together.
That everything that they have in the future is based on pre-1996 technology.
We're dealing with the future, but we certainly didn't want anything to look Star Trekian.
So I wanted angles and strange shapes and a thing that you couldn't quite make sense of.
Nothing is too slick, nothing is streamlined, everything's got a damp stain, everything's a little rusty.
Everything always relates to something else, so you feel sort of comfortable in a way in the room.
Where he's communicating to people, not directly, but through these videos. It's kind of like distances.
They seem to be pack rats.
Is it a future where a table will touch somebody?
It's meant to be a little They're trying to piece together
exactly like
what happened.
If you're doing a scientist in a lab coat with a plastic cover on it that says, don't touch it.
Cut! I find sometimes that I just overcomplicate things. I put too many things in. I'm just desperate to say stop. I've encouraged people to go for too much detail, and they've lost track of just the basic narrative, the key information that has to come through. And it just seems to be impossible to communicate what we need in the room. The script dictates certain things, and it's just getting basic information across the film. It's like I've set this machine in motion, because in all the pre-production meetings I'm saying I want this, that, and I want dwarves, and I want giants, and I want that. And so everybody goes out there, does it, and then on the day, there they are, 10,000 of them doing stuff. And what have I done? Stop, and it's too late. I mean, the machine is just running over you.
I'm assuming that's it. Okay, all right.
We can put it down low.
And action!
Close your eyes, Cole.
Tell us in detail what you've seen in this room.
Tell us about the newspapers. Can you hear my voice?
How old were you when you left the surface?
What does he look like? The man who just spoke.
Were you alone when you left the surface?
Come on, Cole.
Where were you? How old were you when you left?
Cut.
You said, and I just want to make sure, was it that you were depressed or frustrated or?
All of those things are there all the time. But the reality of making films for me is just hard work and disappointment that I can't actually achieve what I can imagine.
Is this, where the fuck is it?
I'm saying, I got control of the people in my head. You can't.
That!
While much time and energy is spent on the more visually bizarre scenes, the real dramatic work of 12 Monkeys takes place in relatively mundane environments. It is in these scenes that the relationship between Cole and Rayleigh slowly develops.
I'm mentally ill. I imagine these things, these people in my head. They're not real to me.
For Terry, The subtlety of Bruce's performance is the most critical aspect of these scenes. Bruce must appear both tough and vulnerable, rational and delusional.
But you're still rational. You're still following a logical path of questioning. Like a doctor would. Well, but a lot more than I am. I'm just fielding these things not very well. I'm not.
Except I mean, on the other hand, you're starting out with the thought that you understand what's wrong. You're mentally divergent. You're mad.
That's bullshit. I'm just.
No, but I think that's what you're starting with, the idea that you're mentally divergent at the start, that you think you're insane, and she keeps throwing things at you. They're saying, you're not insane. These things happen. No, they couldn't have happened. I'm mad. This is all in my mind. It's not your mind. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Actually, the stuff we'd done in the car the other day, it didn't have, I just felt it was a bit flat. It didn't have, something, it was too flat. Yeah, it needs, that's why I think anger or a kind of bitterness in there, but not whining. We were just going along with it.
Because wait, I'm sorry.
We're talking about...
I'm thinking about two different things.
Yeah.
You're not talking about the stuff we did the other day.
No, I'm talking about that little...
Flat. That's not flat. This was flat because I fucking didn't want it.
No.
I knew it wasn't...
Yeah, no, that was... that one.
I thought you were talking about that whole day we were shooting.
That's what I'm talking about, that one where you jump out of the car.
But that was told that wouldn't be used.
Yeah. Well, you made sure it wasn't.
Bruce and Madeline's most dramatic scenes take place on the road. From the first day of the production, Terry's been dreading these car shots. They're visually dull, and it's difficult to communicate with the actors during a take. But Terry's determined to capture the right emotional intensity from these scenes.
Ain't this the life?
Good Lord, my son was ever... Yeah.
As the shoot progresses, the film's editor, Mick Audsley, has already begun piecing together the puzzle of 12 Monkeys.
The firing system.
The film editor's job is not simply to edit the film, but also to troubleshoot for the director. With so many scenes shot out of order, the editor's advice can be invaluable for ensuring that the actors' performances remain consistent throughout the film. As it happens, the driving shots have also been a problem area for the editorial staff.
Hello. Hi, Terry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not actually on that yet. Okay. It's still in the numbering machine, I think. Shall I drop everything? Right. Well, let me have a close encounter with it, because I'm hot onto that reel. It's called the reel from hell in here.
Wait, stop. Here, right here.
Terry and I shared a concern early on about that whole area, which was why we called it the reel from hell, because it was bang in the middle of the film. It's a transitional part of the film, and the logic of Rayleigh's character, I think, is most under scrutiny at that point. Cole is, he's the aggressive one. So we had to create a situation where she is both terrified and yet magnetized to him in some way. We had concerns about Bruce. I mean, occasionally he would veer off perhaps into an area which wasn't useful to this film, and we'd be concerned about monitoring that and bringing it back on board again.
People don't know what you have. It's all gonna be gone. You see?
Fascinating, isn't it? I think we nailed it.
It's great.
I thought he was very good on his close-up. I mean, in a way, when he does that, you think, oh, he's when he nails it, you sort of think, I mean, there's a sort of shyness and toughness in conflict. I think it's wonderful seeing this man sentimental, because it confuses you as to whether this, as whether it is a truly felt emotion or he's barking mad. I'm sure the reel from hell will be the one we love in the end. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Please do. And I mean, the alarm bells aren't ringing. As foggy as it is in here, the sense is that something's happening. All right, Terry. Take care. Bye.
We break for lunch and go over to the stage. We get to the stage by 7.
With the last days of production approaching, Terry and Chuck struggle to squeeze in the remaining shots.
No, I think this one, where I come from, I think of it as Eden. I just kind of like that. One thing about
Ironically, the shoot will conclude with the last shot of the film, a shot which has caused considerable conflict between Terry and Chuck. Chuck wants to follow the original script, which ends with young Cole in the airport parking lot. As far as Terry is concerned, though, he already has his final shot, the shot of young Cole in the airport, witnessing his own death.
Mm-hmm. All right. Very sad. Perfect, Joe. Thanks. From early on, reading the script and in discussions, I've always felt that the ending of the film would take place in the airport between Rayleigh and the boy, their eye contact. I mean, that's why I started the film with On His Eyes and End on His Eyes. And the boy is touched, scarred, damaged by what he's just seen, something that's going to stay with him for the rest of his life. The scene that then came after that was a scene in the airplane where Dr. Peters and his viruses meet the astrophysicist, and we know that somehow the astrophysicists will get the virus and will be able to save the human race.
Jones is my name.
There was an argument that we needed that scene because otherwise Cole's death would have been in vain, that he wouldn't have achieved anything. This way, we, the audience, can see that he has achieved something, that his death has led them to the virus and he saves the future. And I was convinced that was all nonsense anyway, and it was unnecessary, and emotionally it would weaken the emotional ending. And so once we'd agreed to do the airplane shot, Chuck kept lobbying for the parking lot shot, and I said, no, because we're not going to use the airplane shot anyway. You're still a dreamer, I can see. Well, I couldn't work out how to shoot. I didn't have a shot in my head for the boy in the parking lot, so I said we're not going to do the shot. And Chuck was adamant that we do the shot. Finally, I said, okay, I'll do it, but we need to have this huge shot. We got to see thousands of cars in the parking lot. We got to see the entire world out there. Because I was encouraging everybody to come up with very expensive solutions to this so that Chuck would eventually say, no, we can't afford to do it, and he'd back down. I wouldn't have to do the shot. And so suddenly we got a crane on top of another crane. We're in a parking lot. We got a boy, his parents, got the whole world out there. Isn't that an amazing thing, that?
And action!
That's quite, oh, that's nice. That's a very nice angle. Slow, take it down. Okay, now we're getting slow, 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 slow. That's a strong shot. So that shot got in, and the shot wouldn't have been made had not Chuck persisted, and me being just spiteful and coming up with the most expensive solutions, hoping that it wouldn't happen. But the result is a really good shot. And the camera comes right down and finds the boy as he gets into his car and into his face and into his eyes, and his eyes have changed from the boy that was in the air terminal watching this. It's like a boy with determination. It's the guy that's going to become Cole, the guy that's going to be a social misfit, the guy that's going to cause trouble.
I think Terry needs angst.
That's good.
To fuel his motor.
And action!
His creative motor thrives off having arguments with himself. I think that he needs to, in his battle of David and Goliath, which he revels in, and which he's had in Hollywood and with the studio, he wants to feel as though this movie is the little champion fighting the great big Goliath.
What are you going to cut this on? Ediflex?
No, this. No, we're just doing it old-fashioned way.
Okay, you were standing there looking at the moon, you were splashing through the water, and then what?
I'm kind of waiting now to go in the editing room and see what we've really got here. It's now just putting the last pieces of the jigsaw together.
No. Look, you're right. I am mentally ill. I imagined all these things, these people. I know they're not real. I could
I mean, anything in the end that if it at least works on the love story, then we're okay. But the building up of how we build up the dreams and Cole's character, how we build up sympathy for him and a reason for her to be attracted to him. Those are the things I'm still not certain about.
8 weeks into post-production in London, Mick and Terry add the finishing touches to the first full cut of 12 Monkeys.
Hey, we're in the movies. Why do we then disappoint so many people so badly?
And then it goes black. Universal Pictures presents.
I think we should actually start with an announcement.
Yeah.
It should be the first on this thing we should hear.
Although it is a very rough first version, Terry can finally screen the film for an audience and gauge the response.
I mean, I'll show it in England a lot before it's shown over here. Try to get, friends in. We talk about it, and is it working? Do you understand what's going on? Are you confused? People come in, and then you go and talk about it in a relaxed kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, it was, there's so many layers to the film, and I mean, which is good. I mean, you're sitting there the whole time working it out.
Did it feel redundant at all? I mean, because that's in a sense, Peter is saying the thing that I worry about too is that maybe we are giving too much away. Because it's getting that balance, trying to get enough information that people feel they're not just in the hands of bad storytellers who don't know what the fuck they're doing.
With the first cut as a point of departure, Terry and his creative staff discuss strategies for completing the film within the next 4 months.
Well, when you're shooting, I mean, it's just constant pressure because every day there's another $125,000 being spent. And you're part of this huge machine that just is churning forward. There's 150 people there every day. There's questions. It's just, the pressure is incessant. Where with editing, you're not dealing with any of that. This stage, we're down to an editing room with a few people. Production matters, they're in the distance. This is the quiet, reflective part of filmmaking, it seems. I mean, we're just trying to make something out of these pieces, and it really frees you.
I think the difficulties with this film were the puzzle of it as an overall piece, which is certainly why I was attracted to it. I knew it would be an editorial challenge, stroke nightmare, because anything that deals with time or the fragmentation of time, editorially is always the toughest thing to achieve. I think the challenge for us was really finding out if certain confusions or ambiguities are, in effect, the pleasure of this particular film, or have we just failed in communicating ideas at the right time? And in a way, that's what this whole editorial process has been about.
I mean, time travel always goes to another time, not to a time when you were young. I mean, all I'm saying is that I'm going through the argument that I think we want to think he's crazy, and it's not a time travel film.
But I don't see how you lose that by telling them it's 1996 before he goes there.
The whole point of the future stuff is really psychological, and it seems to me we're going to send you to 1996, if by putting those specifics in at that point, it weakens it to me. I know, that's my feeling.
Why does it matter?
Because if it's in your head, you wouldn't do that.
Why not?
Because you're in 1996.
then you don't know that he went to the wrong place. Maybe he thinks he went to the wrong place, but the scientists really sent him to the right place. I mean, it throws up so many things because the scientists haven't told us, the audience, and him, where he's got to go. So how big a deal is it that it's 1990 instead of 1996? We didn't even know 1990 was important.
But I think the difficulty is it's a hard thing for most people to get their heads around. How can he be two people at the same time? But it makes total sense when one sits down and thinks about it. But I don't want people to have to sit down and think about it. We've got to believe it at that point. And yeah. I mean, one thing, you know, with the future stuff one of the problems, everybody became fixated with the future world and spent an enormous amount of time and energy on the detail of the future world. And in reality, we only see it in the engineering room. And the engineering room is not about the detail of that world so much as about the emotion or the internal confusion that Cole should be feeling.
Sent me to the wrong year. It was 1990.
My intention is to let the audience maintain a total uncertainty about his mental state, whether future was in his mind or was real. And I think the music is going to help that as well. I think the music is going to amplify his mental state so we can make more of it. Well, that's the nice thing. You could try something like that. Boom, boom, boom.
Stuff like that.
And then there's going to be Cole's theme as he's desperately trying to get out through the molasses of his drugs, trying to reach the door. But one could play a counterpoint, the Piazzolla doing all that in the background. But that's because it's exactly the feeling that has to be communicated. It's like that. It's slow motion music. It's against some stuff going on.
The thing is that the audience should never be aware of the music as such, but should just be aware of their own, what's going on with their hormones.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. I agree.
I tried this over this stuff, and it slows it down.
Robin, who's the music editor, found a great violin concerto that he laid over the dream, and it just, to me, it's wonderful. It's got the right quality, and it just seems that's the voice that calls him into the dreams, and it's a good way to die.
Well, this is the cutting. The editing is beautiful. I mean, the tempo of the cutting.
Yeah.
That tempo of the piece is absolutely right. I mean, that's the right beat, and that's the right kind of mood.
Yeah.
I mean, shall we say this is the direction we want to go?
Yeah, because it's so simple. It's not cheap sentiment. It's just
it's not.
Real beautiful, tragic.
It's expensive.
And but that moment, the moment that's great is when she starts looking for the boy.
Excuse me?
It's obscene. All the violence, all the lunacy. Shootings even at airports now. You might say that we're the next endangered species.
I've often wondered what it's like just taking this scene out and going to the parking lot.
I mean, does this almost sort of suggest a sequel having been?
No. We've got two endings. We're doing two endings of the film to test.
I see.
One is this one with Dr. Peters and all, and the others just end on the boy.
You're saying one version ends
with or without the scene inside the plane. There are definitely two camps here on this one about whether that detracts from the ending or enriches it a little bit by tidying up certain plot.
I mean, I recognized her, and, you know, when it was all over, you're thinking, well, you know, I mean, you're working it out, really. That, you know, they are there, and they're going to save the world.
No, she doesn't. She's actually come back from the future.
Not clear though.
And Cole effectively has led them to this
Right, sorry,
point.
'cause that
It didn't come through.
didn't come through for me, no.
I must say, I got
Quite a few people don't. They
Well,
find
I mean,
it opens a whole Pandora's box of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what drives me crazy, is that it's so imprecise that it could be so open to such a different interpretation.
I'm constantly pulled because, on one hand, I don't want to confuse people unnecessarily. On the other hand, I don't want to explain things too much, and we're fighting that right now. I mean, whatever I do, I seem to accept the fact that I'm trying to make a film for a broad market's the wrong word, but a broad number of people. I'm trying to communicate to a large number of people. So once you do that, then how far can we push it? How far can we be obscured for the sake of obscurity?
So we talked a little bit about the symbol of the Army of the 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
We just feel that graphically there's so much strength involved with that. And we see a sort of wide-ranging campaign, teaser, applications in outdoor, etc. So what we'll do is you'll see a lot of versions of it, the way we want to do it. And we're not really sure how that will work, but we thought as a teaser, a newspaper campaign idea, just this kind of thing.
That's great.
And it's so provocative, and what is it? And then the final payoff, bang.
Great.
And what I kind of liked about this, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's sort of rough, and it's been stamped and stenciled, and what is it? They're coming this winter.
I think the rougher you make it, the better it is.
Yes.
The bits go blurred.
Absolutely. Yes.
The paint didn't get in certain ways.
Another idea we had was to do bus sides. And perhaps buses synchronous with each other would have question everything, the future is history, all with that stamp of the monkey in some configuration. And it's again, just to sort of be provocative.
And be deliberately obscure. In the early print, it doesn't matter to define what the 12 Monkeys are. Because if it works with the trailer and this sort of, confluence of things happen, people will know. And those that don't know,
They'll ask.
Exactly, it's interesting enough.
That's why I think the enigma is what is the good thing.
Right.
I mean, looking at that page in the newspaper, that's just extraordinary.
That's
Nobody
Jurassic.
do anything that simple.
It's Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's so ballsy to do that.
But it looks like
everybody in the industry would say, "What the hell is
I know.
that?"
The idea when we were doing it was that the circle was, that's the rest of it. That's the world going around following each other's tails. Relentlessly around and around, the one broke loose.
The next group you're going to see are trying to use the likenesses, the three faces, in various ways. I kind of like.
This is for the Academy Award campaign.
Yes, that's right.
That's what that looks
Academy
like.
campaign. I just love Brad's face in that one. It's so twisted.
Oh, wow.
This is kind of wild, isn't it? Interesting.
Metropolis.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
sorry.
That's actually very good.
Or some other kind of, again, sort of time travel ideas that we did.
Wonderful garish color.
Okay.
You needed some content.
That was pretty bizarre.
It's pretty bizarre.
But this really haunted me.
That was striking.
I think that's brilliant. Imagine that up big. It would really. We could do that as a newspaper ad too. Just this
What is this?
That's a
The
companion
future is in the
piece.
hands of a man who has none? Excuse me?
Yeah, that's.
What is
It's
that?
supposed to be he has no future.
It sounds like he has no
But it
hands
sounds like
the
he
way
has
it's
no
written.
hands.
Wow. That is fucking out there.
I think that's worth putting on the
And I love the tattoo up here, right?
Fucking out there. Wow.
The audience is going to go to see that. It's going to like this film, I think, aren't they?
And I don't think. I don't think. Well, and this
And then when it bursts through, it is that just the mighty pimple popping. So. Yeah. The more we do this, the more it's clear, is it in his head or not? I mean, it's just more ambivalent about what it is.
As the days in the cutting room speed by, and the editing process moves closer and closer towards its completion, Terry and his staff focus on the few remaining problems. Even after refining the drama in the driving scenes, and cutting out some of the future world sequences, Terry and Mick still wonder whether they're telling the right story. Terry's most worried about the love story, and is now searching for ways to make Cole and Rayleigh's relationship more believable.
A bit more. What it does to me is it makes her more part of the thing. It was so much on him before.
Is this
No, it's a wig. It's a wig.
While Terry and Mick still have some critical decisions to make, They must now drop their creative work to prepare for test screenings back in the States. The testing process has never been one of Terry's favorite pursuits.
Well, we're going to do Washington, D.C. because everybody says New York is, you know, they're ruthless, vicious there. Yeah. In Washington, we thought they would be nicer, so we thought we'd go to a nice place.
It is our intention to send you back to the year 1996. It is our intention to send you back to the year 1996. We have a very advanced program, something very different. We're going to send you back to 1996. Well, if I said the lines right, that'd be all right. It's pretty well on.
A routine step in post-production is the replacing of dialogue recorded on location with new dialogue recorded in the studio. The process is known as looping, or ADR.
And possibly play an important role in returning the human race to the surface of the Earth.
Spot on, I'd say. Take a look at that.
In order to polish the film as much as possible for the test screenings in D.C., Chuck Roven has asked Terry to do the ADR sessions in an uncomfortably short period of time. To make matters worse, no one back in the States has bothered to track down Bruce or Madeline.
This is just a waste of time. Tell them we won't ADR for the thing, because this is just until this is done properly. We're not going to rush into it. We're not going to crash around the place. This is just stupid.
So I don't get the problem.
It's the typical LA thing. You wait till the last moment, then you rush like mad, and everything's a scramble. Everybody feels, you know, everybody feels good because they get a lot of adrenaline going. This is like bullshit. This is the Hollywood way of doing things, you know?
That's all right. It's only over the day. Hello? Hi, John.
How can anybody get any work done around here if they're on the phone all day is the question. But last week it was known we needed Bruce and Madeline. We still don't know Bruce. But we all know here, we're all sitting here saying, what the fuck is going on? Because it was all known last week. Right. And that means there's the sacrificial lamb in that one is me. We're now in this situation where we're going to go off to the States in a couple weeks' time and show the film to the public and let the public vote and see what happens. And it's a thing that seems to be standard procedure. You got to do it, so we'll do it. But the minute, though, we start getting screenings coming up, suddenly there's a panic again. And I just try to keep it calm. Yeah, that's how it feels. That's what I still feel like when the phone rings. And it's like, oh no. Here we go again. Please check all of the following items that you feel describe the movie. Entertaining, confusing, dull, boring. Action-filled, too violent, well-acted, suspenseful, stupid, dumb. High quality. Heartwarming, different, original, dramatic, romantic. My age group would enjoy it. That's how I describe it. Predictable, has likable main characters. Has likable main characters. Why do we want them to be likable? Involving, not my kind of music.
My age group would enjoy it at
That's
46.
what I like. Yes, exciting. Now, intelligent. Can we put intelligent in here? How about intelligent? Do you think that's a good one?
No, what they sometimes do is thought-provoking.
Thought-provoking. I like that one. Thought.
What about thought-provoking?
Provoking. That's a good one. Just like Die Hard 3. A cerebral feel-good movie.
Treats its audience intelligently.
Yeah, intelligently. Well, the great thing about Brazil was a lot of them just scroll on it. The people who really obviously got and liked music, no more paperwork.
Well,
and those were all discounted. This is supposedly where the public gets to vote, where the public gets to be filmmakers for a brief moment. So you show the film to the public, they fill out cards, questionnaires about the film. That's how it was begun, and then of course then it became a tool for the studios to cover their ass, for studio executives to cover their ass, because it was this specious scientific methodology that would tell you whether a film was going to play or not play, or be successful or not. Because so many times you see a thing play and then you look at the results on the cards and they don't seem to match.
I think we got him. I mean,
Do we have to get to Brad quicker?
I've never heard an audience quite that focused. I was watching the thing. I was beginning to think, I can't make sense of this movie. I don't have a fucking clue what's going on here. The audience loved it. The audience just go crazy. It's very nice to hear an audience just still. There wasn't anything at the end.
They're not supposed to. Terry, it's
They like that.
It's smart.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah.
And it has so much.
First question is the hand counter. The overall rating, excellent, very good, average, fair, poor. Let's see where we stand. How many people rated the film excellent? Nobody?
I was watching the backs of people, and so there was a guy sitting right in front of Mick, the editor, and suddenly, right towards the end there, as he walked into the terminal, he's like that. He just did that, and he just like that the whole time, watching it unfold.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that in movies today.
You know what
How many people felt that it dragged in spots or moved too slowly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many people feel that the romance doesn't fit in? Can I see hands? Almost everybody? You guys don't feel like there's a certain film noirishness and a romance and the vertigo and all that stuff? Did anybody enjoy that element of the film?
And Willis, you gave Willis a chance to really act.
He's good, isn't he? It's very touching.
Very.
No, it's the best thing Bruce has ever done, I think. I mean, it's just it's a really good.
It's a real consistent.
It's a solid performance, yeah. No. It's very funny because I was curious. This is an interesting audience because I wasn't certain whether they would go for Bruce.
How many people like Bruce Willis in this film? You haven't really talked about the big star in the film too much. How many people like the performance character of James Cole and/or Willis's performance? 4, 5, 6. How many people felt that the ending seemed unresolved? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Any comments about that you can, in 10 words or less, when you see family, friends, coworkers, whatever, and they say, how was the preview? In 10 words or less, what are you going to say?
Love the stars, suspense, the story.
The story draws the audience in immediately. I was hooked right away.
Bad character study in a science fiction
It seemed a bit far-fetched that a woman doctor would fall in love with a stinky, crazy Bruce Willis.
A movie with many plot twists and surprises.
Confusing plot, unsatisfying ending.
I loved everything except the violence.
The first hour was very slow. It was very depressing and anticlimactic.
This movie is more intelligent than most movies like it.
Half the time, I didn't understand what was going on. One of the best movies I've seen.
One of the worst movies I've seen.
Action, psycho-thriller, comedy,
Science
romance.
fiction, but too confusing to be a It is a thriller. B-movie with a plot that is fairly
Outbreak meets
unclear.
the Terminator
dull,
in a surreal
boring,
universe.
pathetic,
different,
and
original.
Has
confusing.
likable main characters.
Thought-provoking.
My age group would
Too
enjoy
violent.
it.
Dumb. Not sure if I'd This is a recommend it. waste of potentially good talent.
I can't rate it. I'm too confused.
The numbers don't match what I saw that crowd do last night. And then the cards came. And those cards are really low compared to what I'm used to, except for, the ones where they've walked out. I mean, that's sort of like, Munchausen got cards like that, but there, you can see them, they were all walking on.
Well,
It's they don't.
Several things. People may not like the movie. Once again, fuck them. The movie may be one of those weird ones, the famous story of Airplane. The scores on Airplane were phenomenally low.
Yeah.
And the picture was a huge hit. And what people finally realized is the humor was so vulgar in Airplane that nobody dared admit that they loved it. But they all loved it and all told their friends to go see it with great embarrassment. Now that's not, I hope, 12 monkeys.
I think the focus group wanted us to know that they think it's a black comedy. And if you say it's a black comedy, then they can go with it. People are gonna knock us and try and get us to explain more, and I'm saying that that's not what the audience wants. They want to know what kind of movie it is. And once they know what kind of movie it is, then they'll go with it. Oh, it's a black comedy. I don't need to know what it is.
It's what they want to know is it's not a Bruce Willis movie. got to have a smile in front of another smile. Lots of smiles. Keep a happy face going, no matter what. No, it's deeply disturbing, all of this.
It is deeply disturbing.
I thought I liked the movie a whole lot last night, but that it was painful to sit through the focus group and listen to them, because I always value their opinion. You have to be prepared for that, and that's a lot of pain.
We set out to write a very entertaining movie, hopefully, right? But in doing so, we set ourselves certain obstacles, right? To not make it as easy.
Yeah, because that's it. As we march towards the abyss, we keep, I think I ought to have another smile too. Whatever's going on here, however bad it goes, however hard it is shooting this thing, strap on the smile.
Like I said, you know, you just never know.
Yeah.
It's, they hate it. They hate the film we've made. That's it. This is very bad. I won't sign this one. It's not up to the proper standards. I know I'll sign it. I know what else. Alan Smithy. That's the name I use when directors take their name off the film. I know we've got a good film. I know the film is there. We're not going to be doing many changes. I don't want to constantly be jerking all over the place. I want to just aim towards the finish of the thing. And all these other things are interruptions that, you know, may or may not be informative, but they're constantly, you know, jostling with the main objective, which is to make a film that nobody likes but us.
And your only goal is?
I mean, inexplicability is what the really good stuff is about. I've never understood the really good films. There's great chunks I don't get. But no, I mean, we're trying to make art, you see. Art never explains itself.
I thought I'd wear...
Oh, you've got your art is.
This T-shirt is appropriate. This is very relevant.
What is it? Working on something,
Art
feeling
is
you like it, then...
Leaving it that way. There are the 12 reels over there. Take it or leave it.
You go through this process, and at the end of it, it's supposed to help you make the best possible film. It often doesn't. I mean, there are moments when the film is at its best, and then you go beyond it, and you fuck it. And I've watched that happen too often. And that's why that pressure is really bad. But it's usually the result of people panicking and trying to make the film into something it isn't, and thinking you can fix it. There's this thing, and it's a hippopotamus, so they want to turn it into a giraffe. Because giraffes are popular this year. And it ain't going to be a giraffe, it's only going to be a really deformed hippopotamus at the best.
As a family, I thought you were giving me. No. Oh, Mom and Daddy. I didn't see. Personally, I just like that, or that, the black one where you just...
I've always said to the studio, we can't be governed by the numbers. So even though the scores weren't good in that first preview, we all agreed that we believed in the movie, we loved the movie, and what the problem with the movie wasn't going to be solved by huge changes. We sat in that audience for 2 days. We felt that they, by and large, were with the movie. Yet they were coming out of the visual experience not feeling as positive as we felt that they were while watching it. What was that? Why was that? Do you make huge changes? You know? Well, we decided not to.
It's a very dangerous time, that's all I know. And our job is to keep pushing the barriers, because Hollywood is all about closing in. Let's have one film that will work every time. So I'm intrigued to make this film successful, because the kind of film it is not considered the material for successful films.
The movie never changes. It can't change, but every time you see it, it seems different because you're different. You see different things.
And I think there's also this, that we're telling a story that does demand a certain intelligence and patience. And that's why in the end, I'd be curious to see how many people are out there that will put up with it.
Story itself, how would you describe this? It's one of the most...
Quite mad and extraordinary. I'm dying to see it so I can figure it out for myself. I haven't seen it yet.
I think it's a love story. I don't know. Other people think it's something else, but I think it's kind of a very twisted love story, so we'll see.
How are you celebrating the New Year's this year?
Probably by selling this film, probably going on trying to promote it.
Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
No, never make those. No, because they never are fulfilled.
Gilliam is the cinema's most accomplished trickster.
A dystopian fantasy from a master of the genre.
The irrepressible iconoclastic director is back in action.
Gilliam revisits the narrow divide between sanity and madness.
Sit up straight, snap out of it, shake off that turkey torpor. If you're going to see 12 Monkeys, you have to practice paying attention. That's great. Good for them. That's the kind of stuff like poise on a perceptual knife edge. Wow. Four stars. Where's this? The Village Voice. Willis lifts monkeys above bulky mechanics. There's one we need to read. Takes its time getting to the heart of the matter. You see, that's awful. They think I put this thing together. I was just a hired hand. 5 stars on this one. Look at that. Three stars out of 5? Well, they're mean. Liz, you bitch, Liz. The end result of filmmaking is getting less and less satisfying to me, I suppose. I don't get much out of it. I keep thinking there's going to be these moments of utter joy. Wow, a success. It never feels that way anymore. It's a worrisome thing because it was always, whatever those measures of success were, they were kind of a driving force, and that's gone.
What do you think of the intro?
Hi, is he there?
What intro? Please welcome one of Hollywood's true creative visionaries, Terry Gilliam. I'm not going to say Hollywood. I've now become a Hollywood director. There's no stopping these folk.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest was one of the founding members of Monty Python and has since gone on to direct such films as Brazil, The Fisher King, and now 12 Monkeys, which opens today. Please welcome one of Hollywood's true creative visionaries, Terry Gilliam.
Hollywood. I've now become a Hollywood director. Oh, now you want to know what I feel?